Well,
Yeah.
let's bring in Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin to talk about this and other things related to peace deals and Thanksgiving. Senator, great to see you again. Thanks for being here. Are you as optimistic as the president is that we're close to a deal here?
Well, the president and I spoke about this very briefly on Monday, and he is optimistic, but he's also realistic too, right? He is alluded to multiple times in that small clip. He alluded to as well that he thought this would be the easy one. He thought he could get this done, this deal to bring peace to Ukraine together very quickly when he first got in office. It's proven to be very, very difficult. There's a lot of questions about corruption inside of Ukraine. There's, the fact that does Putin actually want peace? They don't really care about the deaths. The president in Ukraine has always been talking about the death toll here. He's always said he wants to stop the killing. Putin doesn't measure success or failure based on the amount of Russians that are getting killed. And so he feels optimistic that we're close, but he also knows that he's not the one that's fighting. It's between Russia and Zelensky, and how bad do they actually want to stop? If they want to stop, the president is willing to help facilitate, negotiate. But just like he said, he doesn't want to meet with them over the holidays. He doesn't want to meet with them again. He's met with them. He doesn't want to meet with them until they both are for sure want to come to the table, and then he'll help facilitate a peace deal.
Senator, speaking of peace deals, I want to bring it back home now, and whether it's possible that we may not have a peace deal going into Christmas, that we may have to think about another government shutdown. Is that a possibility that we could go through that whole shutdown business again before we get some kind of deal?
Yeah, of course it's a possibility. You got to think about with the Democrats, there was only 8 that was willing to vote to reopen the government. And why were there 8 willing to vote for it? Well, one, the SNAP program ran out, right? Well, because we authorized a full year of spending for the ag program, SNAP's off the table. So the next shutdown won't affect the SNAP program if we do go into a shutdown. The second thing was Ledge Branch. Remember, Ledge pays for all the federal police officers on Capitol Hill, plus it pays for all the staff on Capitol Hill and a lot of other things too. But so all the Democrat staff members weren't getting paid. Believe me, they were pressuring their bosses to, hey, let's get paid. Now that's off the deal too, off the table too. So there's 2 big key things that force the Democrats to vote for it that now they're not. So it depends on how big of a fight they want to make over health care. Do they want to continue spending $40 billion a year to subsidize insurance companies that are making trillions of dollars, which I'm not against a profit. I want to make profit. But if you're making a profit, plus we're subsidizing the healthcare industry to a tune of $40 billion a year, do they want to still have that fight? Or do we want to actually talk about fixing healthcare for the American people like the president is laser focused on? He's laser focused on making healthcare work for the American people, not work for the shareholders of the insurance companies.
Well, one of the things that really has complicated our whole healthcare system, it was in bad shape before Obamacare, but it's gotten worse. And the worst thing is, Milton Friedman used to say, the best thing is when you have a buyer and a seller and nobody in between. Obamacare put so many different layers of middlemen in there in between, all different kinds of insurers now, all different forms and sections of government, from Medicaid on. It seems like what the president wants to do and what Republicans want to do, maybe you'll have a reconciliation bill about it before long, but is to get out those middlemen. And let's start by cutting back on these Medicaid tax subsidies that were meant for a pandemic, for goodness sakes. They weren't meant for regular times. That was a special deal for the pandemic.
Right. Well, that's right. So you talk about the premium tax that the Democrats voted for. David, remember the premium tax was put in place in 21, and not a single Republican voted for it. It was a Democrat-controlled House, Democrat-controlled Senate, and Joe Biden was in the office, and they purposely made it expire. They wanted it to expire because it was just COVID-related. And so now they're saying that that's what's going to bring down the premiums. Well, what's brought the premiums up was the fact that affordable health care is unaffordable. They said that it was going to bring down prices by 25% because of more people going to the market, but they they laced it with so many mandates, and then they shrunk the choices that the American people have, even though they said if you liked your health care plan, you could keep it. That wasn't true. And so it's limited the options, and we've seen healthcare costs rise by 231% just inside the exchange. At the same time, those healthcare policies in private insurance has actually risen at a much significant less of an increase because there's not as many mandates that are inside of that. So if you start looking at what Obamacare or affordable health care, unaffordable health care now has actually done, is it's limited our choices. And what the president wants to do is bring choices back, right? Compare it to health, to your auto insurance. If you drive correctly, you don't get speed tickets, you don't have accidents, you get rewarded with lower health or auto insurance. However, if you drive fast, drive reckless, have accidents, you're going to have higher health or auto insurance. What the president would like to do is say, hey, if you take care of yourself, you don't smoke, you don't dip, you're not drinking, you're not overweight, and you're working out, and then you should pay less than the guy that is obviously not taking care of himself. What the insurance companies want is they want all those together because it's their risk management.
Right.
And Obamacare forced them to come together.
Well,
that's why we have less
we're running out of
together.
time, Senator, but I just got to specify here. If in fact you're not able to get some Democrats on board, and for all kinds of way of simplifying our healthcare situation, and you decide that maybe it's time for another reconciliation package where you can put in this more direct payments to customers of healthcare rather than insurers of healthcare, is it possible we could have another reconciliation bill before the end of next year?
You could, but keep in mind, reconciliation only deals with mandatory spending, not discretionary.
Yeah.
A lot of what's in Obamacare is discretionary. Mandatory will just deal with Medicaid and Medicare. So there is some that you could do through reconciliation, but not the full Obamacare package.
Yeah.
That's going to take a lot more. And by the way, you get back to what you said, David, about the shutdown. We want to do everything we can to keep the government open. We will vote. Republicans will vote to keep the government open. We want to do our appropriation bills. The Democrats have to be willing to work with us because in the Senate, we can't go about it alone. We have to have 8 Republicans or 8 Democrats to support us because, we have 53 Republicans, but Rand Paul will never vote for any spending bill.
Yeah.
So we got to have 8 Republicans or 8 Democrats to help us.
Finally,
to get this
I'm literally getting a wrap now, but I have to ask you one more question. If it comes down to a shutdown again, another shutdown around Christmas time or whenever it is,
January 30th.
Is it possible to get rid of the filibuster for that one purpose? That is to say, the one thing you can end with a simple majority rather than 60 votes in the Senate is to end a shutdown of the government.
There is a possibility to do something very limited, David. It'd have to be very limited on the filibuster, just in the case that we do shut down. What would be the triggers and how to open back up the essential parts of the government?
All right. Senator, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I was very pleased to meet your family. You have a fantastic family. Enjoy them this Thanksgiving weekend. Appreciate you coming with us.
Thank you. I have a blessed Thanksgiving too, sir.